So welcome everyone to this episode of Skincare Confidential. I'm Dr. Patty Ferris, and I'm joined today by Dr. Ted Lane, my co-host.
Hi, so excited to be here, Patty. We have with us today Miss Amber Edwards, who is the global head of Alastin, a Galderma company. Amber has been with Alastin in terms of as their president since 2022. Prior to that, chief commercial officer. But prior to that, just a vast experience both in the aesthetic and pharma world, including developing a novel aesthetic suspension suture with a company called Sinclair Pharmaceuticals, as well as working in the dry eye franchise and, of course, the aesthetic franchise within Allergan. So just so much wonderful experience. And we just could not be more lucky to have Amber with us. Again, the whole idea with Skincare Confidential is to give you an insider's viewpoint in the skincare industry. And what better way to do that than with, the president of one of the fastest growing skincare companies, at least prestige skincare companies that we have in our space. So Amber, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. What an honor. I was really excited when I saw the announcement that you were going to be starting this podcast. I thought, I can't imagine a better duo to do something like this. And thrilled that you've invited me on. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Well, let's get started. Obviously I just read part of your CV, but can you give us kind of your path to getting to the point where you are? I mean, you've really kind of worked your way up and now you're the global head of, as I said, just one of the fastest growing skincare companies. Give us an idea of how this happened.
Sure. Well, especially, because I'm just so young with all the skincare products, it's been time flies, but my journey's been a really fun one. And as kind of a rule of thumb, I've always had this idea of never try to map out too carefully what your path is going to be. Because I think if you really try to map it out too much, you miss a lot of opportunities. And to be very honest, so much of my journey has been opportunities that came up that I never was even looking for, but I was ready, willing, and always excited and passionate to try something new and take on a new challenge. So I joined the overall healthcare and pharmaceutical industry back in 1997. Going to age myself a little bit. I was a sales rep for Park Davis Pharmaceuticals, working in the diabetes, cardiovascular space, moved into women's healthcare and depression and anxiety, took on a number of different roles. That company was acquired by Pfizer, and I moved to New York City, which kind of became my chosen home and my home base for many, many years, but worked in Pfizer in a variety of just sales training and marketing roles in a number of different categories. But I think where things really shifted for me was back in 2004 when Allergan called. Botox Cosmetic was still sort of in its early days. They were still, trying to figure out how to make consumers feel really good about this space in general, this whole medical aesthetic space. And I was asked to come on board and lead the marketing team, and focusing really on the consumer side, which has always been a passion of mine, is consumer marketing. And I do think so much of my journey also has been rooted in really trying to understand what consumers care about, what their behaviors are, what they're looking for, and ultimately how to give them the highest level of satisfaction possible. I was with Allergan for many years, working across all of the different aesthetic products, part of many acquisitions. And my last sort of adventure with Allergan was heading up the international aesthetics business. I lived over in Europe from 2015 to 18 and had the opportunity to launch products in a number of different markets, such as China, Saudi Arabia. Really, fantastic experience just to broaden my overall cultural sensibilities and understand the different rules and regulations in different markets. I left in 2018. And as you mentioned, I joined Sinclair Pharma, really interesting European medical aesthetics company that has a fantastic line of products. They've expanded greatly. But at that time, the only product that was approved in the US was Silhouette Instalift, which is, as you mentioned, a thread, a suture. And I was brought on to be the president of North America to really establish Sinclair's presence here in the US. That was a lot of fun, and we had great plans, and then COVID hit. So that was not part of the original plan, and it kind of put a halt on some of our ambitions. But I was just incredibly lucky to get a call from Diane Gustry, at Alastin Skincare. I was had a couple of colleagues, former colleagues who were on the board of Alastin who recommended me for the position of Chief Commercial Officer. And what a ride that's been. It's been a lot of fun.
I was going to say, and the rest is history. What an incredible career. No glass ceiling for you. You broke that a long time ago. Congratulations. It's a phenomenal story. I think when we talk about Alastin as dermatologists, one of the things we think about first is the whole notion of post-procedure and peri-procedural. And they've really carved out a niche, I think, in the at least medical dispensing brands for that. And so I think our listeners would be interested to hear how all of that evolved and how that affects your strategic direction as well.
Sure, absolutely. And it's everything. It's what, we're really proud of having been pioneers in that space. And it comes down to our founders just being visionary. The founders of Alastin back in 2015 recognized that minimally invasive procedures continue to skyrocket, right? Mm-hmm. That's what people want. And although there were many skincare brands on the market, no skincare line had really seen that opportunity to partner with procedures and actually focus very specifically on how can topical medical grade skincare actually both prep the skin in advance of a procedure, really clean out the extracellular matrix to make sure that the skin is ready for the impending trauma that comes with a procedure, but then also post-procedure actually help the skin heal as quickly as possible. And the founders recognized that opportunity, very quickly brought on just an unbelievable team of scientists. Dr. Alan Widgerow, who I know you've met, I believe he spoke at the last conference.
Spoke at our meeting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel privileged to be in his presence every day. He's just such an inspiration and always thinking of what's next and how do we just constantly improve. But his entire background is in wound healing.
Right.
So what better specialist, right, to come on and actually think about essentially what's happening to the skin in a procedure is a wound. And so he, wanted to develop proprietary peptides to help actually the skin learn how to heal itself faster. And then we brought on an incredible team of formulators led by Dr. John Garudo, who was well known by some other brands. He actually worked at Allergan for many years.
A legend in the formulation space.
Absolutely legendary when it comes to cosmetic chemistry in general. So that duo of Alan and John, they're behind everything we do. And to your point, Patty, peri-procedure space is what put us on the map. And we are always looking at what the newest procedures are. We try to stay very close to what new energy-based devices are coming out, what new injectables are coming out.
Right.
And we quickly, try to connect with those companies and say, let's do clinical studies together. Let's figure out, what's our best product to help your procedure actually perform even better, which is, great for both the medical provider as well as for the patient.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. Patty, I'm just thinking about what's going on right now in skincare with the heparin sulfate analog. People are really focusing on that dermal matrix, like Amber was just saying, and cleaning it out or augmenting it. So we've got the heparin sulfate analog that's available. Now we've got people coming out with these exosomes, which are mainly platelet derived. Again, for wound healing, right? That's platelets kind of arrive for wound healing. And so it makes sense that the exosome should be derived from the platelets, but it's all about the wound healing, Amber, like you said. Yes. And I think that was probably one of the key insights early on in Alastin's evolution is we need to focus on wound healing here, but the wound, not the way that dermatologists usually think about wound healing in terms of an ulcer or whatever medical issue that we're dealing with. We're talking about wounds from cosmetic procedures that we need to heal. And I think that honestly, just that insight has carried Alastin to the forefront of dermatology, and so many now are trying to catch up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of your questions I'm sure is going to come up, because it always does, is what are the trends in skincare? And, the big trend right now is peri-procedure. And so we try to be a trendsetter in that notion and really lead the way in thinking about, okay, where is there a gap? Ultimately, where is there a gap in the toolbox that our providers, who we see as our partners, in how you're treating patients? Where is there a gap? How can we actually help you when it comes to all the other things that you're doing in your practice? So that's really at the root of it.
And now that I think about this even more, Alastin was really the first to come out with a pre-procedure kit as well, right? With the nectar and just kind of really thinking about how do we prime the skin so that when that injury happens, the wound healing process is shortened and we're able to get these patients back to their regular lives as well as obtain the best outcome from that procedure. Am I saying that correctly?
Completely. It's all about reducing downtime. Right? Who has time to be, hidden away out of the world for a week or 2 weeks?
Nobody.
And then accelerating, the results also. And in some cases with some of our products, even making the results even better, really maximizing those results too. If you look at, everything started with nectar, but if you look at Transform, that we started using that product. Right. I mean,
that product.
No pun intended, but it was transformative, right? It was, it really was all about helping the results of cool sculpting,
body contouring products.
procedures.
And I'm going to just give a shout out to Enhance because that's another great product that was the brainchild of Alastin, which is paired with injectables. And there really isn't, I don't think, anything else in our therapeutic armamentarium that has that sort of technology to reduce bruising and swelling. And it's an awesome product. It's an awesome product. So they have been on the very forefront of all of that.
Definitely. Yeah, we love that product.
Yeah, just to jump in, the Enhance, the science behind that product is unbelievable. It's kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, Amber, but it's instigating macrophages to come in and really kind of take care of all the red blood cells that are present after the procedure, as well as the peptides to build up the dermal matrix and get those fibroblasts going. So it's unbelievable because every time, we usually think about arnica, but there's no data to support arnica.
Right.
Zero. And so
and that's
really
the root of everything for us is actually, everything we do is about having the actual evidence to support it.
Yeah.
And that's where, we have this 3-step process that we're incredibly proud of. And I would challenge anyone to find another skincare line that puts the amount of rigor in, but it starts with gene expression. Mm-hmm. So Alan, Dr. Widgerow, he heads up the tissue engineering lab at UC Irvine, in his spare time. Mm-hmm. He has a side job at UC Irvine, also as a department head of the chief plastic surgeon. But he, in his spare time, he does everything in a lab first. He actually looks at gene expression to see how the different ingredients that we're considering actually interact with each other. What may upregulate, what may downregulate, how they actually interact with each other. Then we take that into histology. So it's then, biopsies to see what's actually happening in the skin. And then we do actual clinical studies to see it in real life practice. And exactly, it's the science behind it. And I think with Enhance, it was a really unique concept, going beyond arnica, which is just kind of just this accepted thing. And, I think what we've been able to create with Enhance is a product that does speed up that process with the macrophages and just makes it all move along much faster. So when you look at patients, who have had Enhance versus those who haven't, they just go through that entire bruising process much faster.
Much quicker.
And they're completely healed much quicker.
Yep. And there's data to support that. In fact, the trials that were done absolutely support that. Well, as I think about the distribution channels for the Alastin line, you guys have really remained loyal to the physician office thus far. Do you feel like, now with the Galderma acquisition, do you see that changing in the near to midterm future, Amber? Any plans on going more mass or going online?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's a question I get every single day, and
by the doctors,
by doctors, even by by everybody. We are 100% committed to physicians. My mission will always be anything that we consider doing strategically. My first question is, does this support our healthcare professionals? If it doesn't, I don't want to do it. And even when we did decide to start to go online and build up an online presence, even then, it really was all about providing another income stream for our healthcare providers when COVID hit. That's when we started our real digital efforts. Prior to that, it was mostly just product information pages, but we quickly realized that with offices closed, we could actually, we immediately created 2,500 vanity URLs, very specific URLs that we sent out to all of our accounts and said, hey, if you put this on your website, even if your office is closed, your patients can now order their product. They're automatically linked to you if they're coming through your URL. And every purchase they make, not only the first purchase, but any purchase they make moving forward is going to be linked to you. You're going to get a commission for that purchase. Mm-hmm. So that's how our online efforts started. And that really took off. We have healthcare providers today who are, have $200,000 to $300,000 in completely passive income coming into their practice just from these URLs. And we actually do all the fulfillment. You don't even have to have the product in stock, for that. We fulfill it, we ship it. So I think that's just a great example of how we want to make sure we stay true. Now, we are pressured all the time to go on to other online retail stores. And we've said no to every single one. The only ones that we do support are our healthcare provider sites, right? So of course, through your own practice website, we want to support that. But it's a challenge. Amazon, I don't care who you are, products are going to end up on Amazon unless you are
can't
really
stop it.
And we have 3 different law firms that we're working with, going after every single Amazon reseller that we can figure out who they are. And we've won every lawsuit we've done so far.
Wow.
But it's whack-a-mole,
It is whack-a-mole.
You knock one out and 2 more pop up.
Exactly.
And
the whole anti-diversion thing is a huge problem for every company.
It is.
It's a major problem. Sort of to switch gears, one of the big initiatives we're seeing with a lot of the companies is, of course, addressing patients with skin of color. Yep. So I'm curious how you guys are working in that arena and if you have any initiatives around that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely key. And it's one of the many reasons, I'm sure we'll talk about Galderma, but one of the big reasons I was so excited to have Alastin join the Galderma portfolio is because all of these environmental and social and sustainability initiatives are at the forefront for Galderma as a bigger company. Yeah. But when I think about skin of color and diversity, I kind of think about it in 3 different ways. There's inclusion in marketing. So that's imagery. It's the way we market products and making sure that consumers of all skin types feel completely included in how we're representing skincare. And I think several companies, including us, have tried to make sure that we have a great deal of diversity in the photography that we're using. The second area that I think about is, and this is one that doesn't get any attention, but to me, it's probably the most important, is when it comes to employment opportunities. I am doing everything I possibly can to open up internship opportunities and try to reach communities who don't normally land. When we recruit for a position, we get a lot of resumes from people who are not skin of color because they don't have the experience. So I keep asking myself, how can I create opportunities to give more people experience so that they do become better qualified to be able to take on these positions?
Perfect.
And then the third piece is the kind of the more obvious one, which is, what are we doing with our products? And we are, constantly thinking about how can we recruit for our clinical studies a wider variety of patient skincare types. Recruiting is always tough, but in our latest product that we just launched a few months ago, which is on track to become our most successful product, which is Illuminate, our pigment product, which is breaking every record. That was really important to us to say, okay, this is a condition that is more prevalent in certain skin types. So let's make sure that those skin types are represented in the clinical studies that we do. And so we really tried to make sure we were recruited from all different Fitzpatrick skin types that we've opened, that we looked at areas of the country where we needed to make sure we were getting the right people into those clinical trials. These are some of the ways that we're kind of looking at that, but we can all get better. I'll put that out there too. We're taking really positive steps, but as an industry, we can all get much better here.
I believe you, and I would love to echo those statements. We could all get better. And as someone who runs a trial site, I feel the pressure and the desire as well to try and get all patients in the door for trials. Right? We need to have trials represent the society that we live in, and it's difficult. It's difficult because of so many longstanding issues in regards to the trust people have in clinical trials and what's going on with the different ethnicities and races, as well as just, getting people in the door when they're busy and the knowledge out there that the clinical trial is going on. So I'd love to echo those statements and just say, look, I appreciate what industry is doing, in particular, what you just said, what you're doing in terms of employment, as well as marketing, but also at the clinical trial sites, we need to do a better job of trying to get all different skin types through the door, so that we can help even at this basic level. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
thank you. In addition to that initiative, another huge theme in the skincare industry is sustainability. Speak to what you're doing in Alastin, within Alastin. I know it has to align with what Galderma is doing as well, in terms of sustainability initiatives.
Yes, certainly. Another really complicated one, and this is where we're trying to balance very carefully, keeping science at the forefront and not becoming gimmicky. And I think a lot of companies, unfortunately, in order to be sustainable, will throw ingredients in it and that don't have any scientific backing, right? So I think first and foremost, science is what's most important to us. But that said, we are actively looking at several different areas, and this is where Galderma has a fantastic initiative in place that's aligned with the United Nations overall goal to have minimal to no impact on the environment by 2030. And so as a broader company, and we're already looking at our manufacturing plant to pull them into this bigger, broader initiative, is to look at ways to reduce waste. First and foremost, everything we can do to actually eliminate and reduce waste as much as possible. To reduce gas emissions, already with Alastin products, the majority of our formulations use a cold process, which significantly reduces the amount of energy that's needed. So,
interesting.
And then looking at also
Really
ways to reduce water, water usage. Water is living here in Southern California, we know that water is something that we're losing very quickly. And so we're working with our suppliers, with our partners to, make sure we're doing everything we can to look at climate, water, and reducing waste overall. And then as part of that, we're constantly meeting with different components suppliers too. I think we have room to improve in even just our packaging. We've already made some improvements. We just launched some of our newer products and brand new components. And that's something over the next 2 years, I think you'll see some exciting changes with our overall packaging, as well as, looking for ways to just become better overall when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah, gosh, it's a 360 view, isn't it?
And so many companies are facing the same. Very interesting. So we talked a couple of times about the Galderma Association, and I thought that was such an interesting place for Alastin to land. Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit about that, especially with, you're really a medical skincare line, and Galderma's been so heavily involved in the consumer space with Cetaphil. So I'm sure there's some growing pains maybe and challenges kind of bringing those two together, but obviously there's strengths as well. As you've already mentioned, you've benefited a lot from your association with them.
Absolutely. I was just telling somebody yesterday, if you could actually come up with your best possible acquisition situation and how it's played out, this is it. It has been, but even post-acquisition, the integration process, when I'll start with, we talked earlier about pairing Alastin with procedures, and that's really how we got to know Galderma. When they were launching Kiss, their fantastic Restylane product for the lips, they wanted to use Enhance So when they were launching it, we did a partnership with them. So we actually started doing partnerships back in 2018. And I joke that we actually kind of had an opportunity to date Galderma before we got married because we did so many partnerships together. And it really, what we found is that we had a very similar culture. Our sales reps got to know each other and partnered really well at the local level, and how they decided to approach, physician offices together. They started doing programs together. So we had already built this beautiful relationship. And then Dr. Fleming Ornskoff, the global CEO of Galderma, has he's really excited and passionate about this integrated dermatology platform, which is about making sure that Galderma is the leader in all things dermatology. And the way that he looks at that is, there's no aesthetic only patient or acne only patient. A consumer is addressing a number of different things in their skin throughout their life cycle, throughout their journey. And that might include, acne or psoriasis or medical conditions. We have Cetaphil, for more of the mass market and for so many different sensitive skin types. And then you move into the aesthetic world with the injectable portfolio with Sculptra and Restylane and Dysport. And then it just, the missing piece was a premium skincare line. Right. We were the only piece missing. And so back in, 2021, I think he made a decision that we need to round out this exciting portfolio that we have. And, if you're going to bring on a premium, skincare line, it should be the one that partners best with procedures.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just an automatic natural pairing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been really thrilled about from a personal perspective, and, I care so much about the Alastin employees. I wanted to make sure that they were well taken care of. And, Fleming, to his credit, asked before the acquisition, he said, how do I not mess this up? He said, how do we make sure that everything you've created with Alastin, we don't screw it up when we buy you? Because so many companies make acquisitions and they just take it over and they kind of throw away all that knowledge and experience. And we basically said, leave us alone, help us out, give us open doors for us, help us with resources, but let us do our thing because it's working. And he has. We grew 54%.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
That's amazing.
It shivers when I even say that.
That's incredible.
And it's because our reps have really partnered with the Restylane and Dysport Sculpture reps. They've partnered very closely to try to create a more, like I said, holistic offering for physicians. And that's really worked. We opened up, 1,400 new accounts last year. And like I said, just tremendous growth overall. So what we're doing right now is working. We're also, I think this year you'll see some other exciting partnerships when it comes to things like the Aspire program.
Mm-hmm.
As of this year.
Your loyalty program with the Galderma?
Yeah, the Galderma loyalty program. So as, effective immediately, all Alastin purchases that an account makes actually count towards their overall Aspire status.
Perfect.
We also have benefits for the patients. The patients get Aspire points as well when they buy Alastin. So, and then education is the third area that we're really trying to partner with and take advantage of the incredible platforms that Galderma has built with Gain, which is just an amazing education platform. So you're going to see Alastin, much more integrated into that overall this year too.
Patty, I had the opportunity to hear Fleming speak once, and let me tell you, as a physician, first of all, he's unique leading this global company as a physician, which I think imbues the company with a certain credence with the, and the physicians that they sell to, right? That we know that it's led by a physician. But my word, he is so motivational, and I could see, Amber, just the desire to work with and for him because,
Absolutely.
I listen to him and I say, gosh, I'd fall off the cliff for this guy.
He's an
tells me to do
impressive leader.
Very impressive. And so I absolutely could see his enthusiasm shining through, as well as his ability to work with others to
really
lead this
listens.
organization.
He really listens. I'm very privileged to actually get to report directly to him. Yeah. And so, I treasure when I do get time with him, which is rare because he's unbelievably busy. But, he really listens. He listens to our partners, our providers, to us. And I can't say just how much I appreciate how much he really wants to, he's just excited about the growth opportunities and what we can do.
Yeah. Well, listen, we don't have much time, and we thank you so much for your time, Amber, but you've already mentioned a little bit about skincare trends. You said peri-procedural, kind of integrative skincare. Beyond that, though, if you kind of looked into your crystal ball, what are you thinking in terms of, 2, 3, 4 years from now, skincare trends that we need to kind of keep an eye on?
Sure. No, there's a lot. But again, I think, it needs to be rooted in science first and foremost. Yep. But some of the ones that we're excited about, and we try not to have a very big line. One of the things we love with Alastin is we have less than 20 products, right? Yeah. We've tried to stay very focused and only launch products that we feel there's a real need for and that we can do it differently, right? We're not going to launch something unless it's really differentiated. But I think some areas that excite me are maybe this is maybe a little too personal, but I think there's a real need for skincare focused on menopausal women, just hormone-based issues, and I think our pigment product definitely considers that as well. But I think that's going to be an interesting trend over the next few years, is sort of menopausal skincare. There is absolutely a lot of interest and excitement, like you said, around procedures, but there's interest and excitement around regenerative. And you've already mentioned that with exosomes. There's so many companies getting into the regeneration space. The problem, though, today is that it's very unpredictable. So consistency, lack of predictability, that's what's made us a little bit nervous and hesitant, and Alan is determined to crack the code. And if anybody can, it's
I was going to say, and he just may do that.
Yeah, and
he just may.
Really into it, because we all see the benefits, of that, opportunity. But I think in his perfect world, there would actually be a synthetic version of an exosome that you can 100% control and make sure that you're getting, because right now the clinical data that's out there with the exosome products is just it's not consistent. And I think that's what we want to see. If we're going to put something on the market, we want our providers to know exactly what they're going to get and to have that predictability.
Love that.
Yeah, that's impressive. Well, look, we're going to go ahead and wrap, but Amber, this has been so enlightening. We're so grateful and honored that you came on with us, and we hope everybody's enjoyed this as much as we have, and we'll see everybody for the next episode of Skincare Confidential.